We want to do another problem that involves two lines. And this time we're going to work with two lines that are perpendicular to each other. Let's first remind ourselves what it means for two lines to be perpendicular. If I have a line like this, a perpendicular line means it crosses this line at a right angle. And we put that little square there to indicate it's a right angle. It's 90 degrees. And here's the special relationship about perpendicular lines. If I call this line 1, so this line maybe, I'll call it, the slope of that line is M1, and the slope of this second line is M2. If two lines are perpendicular, then we have this special property where if you multiply the slopes of two perpendicular lines, it equals -1. So, that's an interesting property that we're going to use in a minute. Because the problem we have says we're trying to find the equation of a line. So we're trying to find the equation of a line that contains a point, and the point is going to be 7 minus 3. So I'm looking for the equation of a line that has the point 7 minus 3 and is perpendicular to 2x minus 5y equals 8. So this right here is sort of like a second line. And the line I'm trying to find the equation of is perpendicular to this line. So they've told me for the line I'm trying to find the equation for, they've given me a point, and they told me that my line is perpendicular to this second line. So once again, if I'm trying to find the equation of a line, the starting place is the slope-intercept equation. And I need to find two things. I need to find the value for the slope, which is m, and the value for the y-intercept, which is b. Now I can find the slope based upon the information from this second line. I'm going to go find the slope of this second line, and then I'm going to use the special fact about perpendicular lines to find the slope of my line. So let's first find the slope of the second line. And once again, if you're given an equation of a line, how do you find the slope? You rewrite this equation so it is in slope-intercept form, which means you get y by itself. So I'm going to take this equation, 2x minus 5y equals 8, and I'm going to get y by itself. So I'll subtract 2x from both sides. So you have -5y equals -2x plus 8. Then to get y by itself, I'll divide both sides by -5. So therefore you have y equals 2/5 x minus 8/5. Now the key to this, I really am interested only in the slope. So the slope of this line is 2/5. Now since this line is perpendicular to my line, this gives me the ability to find the slope of my line. So here's this equation. If you have two perpendicular lines, you can multiply the slopes and they equal -1. So I'm going to put in the slope of this other line, and I know if I multiply it by the slope of my line, it equals -1. And now I can solve for m, and this m here will be the slope of my line. So I'll multiply both sides by 5/2 in order to solve for the m. So I get m equals -5/2. So that's now the slope of my line. My line has a slope of -5/2. So I can go ahead and start to write the slope-intercept equation. Y equals -5/2 x plus b. Now I need to find the b. How do I find the b? Well, that's where I use the point they gave me. I'll rewrite it. The point on my line is 7, -3. That 7 represents the value of x. The -3 represents the value of y. If I plug 7 in for x and -3 in for y into this equation, it allows me to calculate b. So let's do that. So I'll plug in -3 for y and 7 for x, and I can now solve this equation for b. So -3 equals -35/2 plus b. If I want to solve for b, I'll add 35/2 to both sides. So I have b equals 35/2 minus 3. Now if I combine these 3 as a fraction of 6/2, so I believe, if I didn't make any math errors, b is going to be 29/2. So now the equation of my line is y equals -5/2 x plus 29/2. So that's the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. Let me go ahead and also write it in the general form, because oftentimes that's the way they ask for the answer on WebAssign. So once again, I first want to clear the fractions. So I'll multiply both sides by the common denominator 2. And when I do that, I end up with 2y equals -5x plus 29. And now I want to get the x and the y on the same side, so I'm going to add 5x to both sides. And you get 5x plus 2y equals 29. So there's the equation in the general form, and over here is the equation in the slope-intercept form. So that's an example of how to find the equation of a line when you're given a perpendicular line and also a point on our line.